Good evening, everybody. I'm gonna test this mic. Can you hear me? No? Okay. Hand mic it is. Can I get some slides? Yes? Gotcha. Okay. How we doing, everybody? Great. We learned about organic content and how to blow up your brand. And we learned about how to get free money. What's better than free money? Now, I'm about to drop a lot of game on y'all. But before I get into it, I know we've been sitting down for about 90 minutes, a long time. I want everybody to stand up. I want everybody to stand up, because my energy is fed off your energy. So when you give me energy, I can perform better for y'all. So before we start, we're gonna do a light stretch. Y'all good with that? Okay, stretch it out. Let's roll the shoulders up. Let's get it going. Let's roll the neck out. Now, who here has ever wanted to buy a business? And when you answer this, I want you to answer it with intensity. Not a hand raise, James. I want to know where the passion's at. I want to feel it from the diaphragm. Have you ever wanted to buy a business? Yeah! That's what I'm talking about, James. Everybody, model James. Model James. Can I get a clicker, please? Thank you.
Activating it.
Okay.
Yep, you're going to fire right there.
Thank you. Y'all can sit down. And I would definitely say get your pen and paper ready. I'm going to try to go as slow as possible because I talk fast. Now, as I mentioned, I'm LaJuan, Mr.FourAM Payne. I'm an acquisition artist, and I'm a best-selling author of acquisition artistry. What I would like you to take away from this today is how to make your job, your W-2, optional. Not by retiring tomorrow, not by quitting tomorrow, but by having the option to not show up. How does that sound? That sound good? Beautiful. All right. Uh-oh. Okay, so we got to get close. It's in the office right there. So every buyer, every person who's been interested in buying a business has what I call a 4AM moment. The 4AM moment is when you are living your life and you realize, I did everything right. I did everything I was told to do. I followed the traditional path. I went to college. I got the job. I stayed out of trouble. But my savings ain't what I wanted it to be, and I still am in a position where I gotta punch this clock, and I don't have a choice not to punch this clock. Is that a frustrating feeling, y'all? Buying a business is the fastest way to become the wealthiest person in your family. It also is the fastest way to give yourself the option not to have to show up to work. What I've realized is that once someone buys a business, they typically do keep their job, I'm gonna be honest with you, but they're happy that they have the option not to go. Now you're here today to learn a few things. Some of you already spoke to me. And you're here to learn how to be a future business owner if you are in corporate. Some of you are business owners and you want to learn how to grow your businesses. That's what we're going to cover today. So if you're a future business owner, give me a hoorah. I'm going to go over the math of how we become business owners and why you should become a business owner and the advantage of being a business owner over being a W-2 employee in the same position. So, this is the equation most of us were never taught. Well, let me rephrase that. This is the equation most of us were taught. We go to school, we qualify for that six-figure salary, we fight for that job, we show up, and we make $300K a year, give or take. Let's just say it is. You work 10 years, and you make $3 million. And for the sake of the example, I'm going to keep it simple and pretend we don't pay taxes. So the owner's salary, this is the equation we were not told. You earn the same $300,000, but because you own the business, you also make an additional $300,000 in profits, distributions, or dividends, depending on how you structure, from the business for doing the same job or less. Times the same 10 years, now you're at $6 million. You literally doubled your money by owning the business and doing the same job. Managers in a company, typically make about 300K. The owner also makes about 300K, but he does less work, or she. The key benefit that you obtain doing this is that you also get the annual profit as a multiple. And what I mean by that is somebody along the line in your future is going to come along and give you more money for your business based on how much money it's paying you at the end of each year. So for the sake of this example, let's plus some numbers to it. If you're a salary owner or salary worker, you work 10 years, you make $3 million. But when you stop working, the money stops. That's it. When you own the business, you get the same 300K. You also get 300K in profit every year. And that's taxed less because that's just how the tax system works. Plus, you get the 300,000 times the payout or the exit. You guys with me still?
Go back over that one more time.
Okay, that's why I asked. When you own a business, somebody is gonna, when you sell your business, somebody will give you, or a buyer will give you, anywhere between 1, typically to 5 times on average, the net income of your business when you want to get rid of it. So as you build your business, you're being paid once in a salary, or not once, but you're being paid a salary. You're also being paid the income from the business, and you're also building the value of your asset in the background for when you do decide to sell it, if you decide to sell it. Does that clear that up? Sweet. So, same salary, but 2 different outcomes. The only difference was the position someone was in. The employee made $3 million, but our owner here made $6 million in the same time period, plus an additional $900,000 when they sold their business. And this assumes that you didn't attempt to grow your business over a 10-year period and you were very comfortable getting your 300K. But who in this room wants to just stay where they're at when they own a business? You want to grow it, right? Yeah? I'm going to give you guys the playbook on how this works. When we buy businesses, we get paid 3 ways. We make money on the buy, we make money when we own the business, and we make money when we exit the business. And it's just like buying a house. For example, if a business is marketed, or let's say a house is marketed at $1.3 million. In California, that's cheap out here. You pay $800,000 for that house because you want a deal. Nobody wants to pay retail for anything, right? The first thing you look for is something that's on sale. So when you do that deal, you immediately make $500,000 on day one. And you make $500,000 on day one because you still bought a business that was worth $1.3 million. So you can sell it for $1.3 million. You purchased it for $800,000, so you're up $500K. Is that clear? Sweet. So I'm going to give you guys an example of what this really looks like. On day one, if a business is making $300,000 and you purchase it for $1.3 million, you're not making any money. You're at 0 equity. You bought the business for what it is, you pay retail. But let's say you find a better deal. You have a motivated seller, somebody who's eager to get out of a situation. But now, why would somebody give you a business for less than it's worth? The same reason why you might be able to buy a purse that's worth more or a watch that's worth more. People need cash and the problem solved more than they need the property that they own. This is what it is. So, you found the motivated seller, you're up 300 or 600K on day one. Now, the best deal is when you put no money down, and I'll walk through that in a couple slides. If you were to put no money down, then you're up 600K on day one. Oh, no, sorry, I said that wrong. If you pay a multiple of 1, which means you just pay the $300,000 that the business is worth, then you're up 1 time multiple. So you're going to pay that business off if you borrow that money in 1 year. And then that $300K forever, as long as you own the business, now belongs to you. That is the best deal. Question? Shoot. Go. What's the question?
Didn't you use funding or lending to double that?
To double what?
To pay the 300 and then to acquire?
Yeah, you can use lending to acquire the business. I will walk you through how to do that. Ideally, we want to use creative structures because businesses allow you to purchase themselves without needing to put any money in. Now, you can do that. I'm not telling you you shouldn't, but it's one vehicle, it's one way. As I like to say, there's more than one way to skin a cat. There's more than one way to buy a business. Oh. Now, this is how that works. The second way we make money when we buy a business is we take the profit, but we pay interest to the person or lending institution that gave us the money to acquire the business. And the money you keep is your called cash on cash return. So that is the money that you make every year. That's the $300,000 you get to put in your pocket. Your goal when you do this is to make the business pay for itself. You want to keep the profit and you want to put as little money down as possible out of your own pocket. Now, there is a difference between no money out of pocket and no money down. And the key difference is that the money down didn't come from you. It comes from somebody who we call an investor. There are people out there that make an obscene amount of money. And if they do not put it somewhere, they will lose it to the government. Would you rather buy a profitable asset or would you pay the IRS? Those people are very abundant nowadays because cash is everywhere. So you're going to find that person either through your network, through clubs, there's Facebook groups. There's so many places to find investors nowadays. They're literally quite plentiful. So what you're going to give them is two things. You're going to give them equity in the deal. You don't have to own 100% of a business for you to be happy with what you're receiving from it. Or B, you're going to give them 8 to 12% interest on the money they lend you, like you said. And if you give them 8 to 12% interest on the money they lend you, you're not going to get that full $300K for a couple years or until they're paid back. You might give them 80% of that so their loan is paid back. But now you didn't have to put the money into the deal to acquire the asset. And I want to be very clear about this. There's a difference between a purchase and an acquisition. When you purchase something, you are buying it outright. When you acquire something, you are taking control of it. So just like when you have a house, you go get the bank, you get a mortgage, and you acquire the house because you put 20% down on a mortgage, and now you control it. The same works in business, except you make a lot more money doing it. Does that make sense? Cool. And nothing. What's up, James?
So, could you perhaps do a syndication on the business similar like how you would do it on real estate?
Oh yeah, bro, they're called funds. Nothing else pays like acquiring a business though. That is the key. This is why I love this. If you put $1 in a savings account, you might make 1.9% on it a year. Now the banks are really tripping, talking about 0.3%, 0.3%. U.S. Treasuries are down to 1.7. The S&P is good for 8 to 12%, but it's risky. It's the stock market. It goes up 70% of the time, goes down 30% of the time. Now, a REIT is safe, pays you every month. You might make 11% on it. That's good, that's conservative. But when you put $1 in a business, if you buy a business with the best deal that we talked about earlier, you're going to make 230% on it because that dollar is going to turn into $10. When you buy a business with the zero down strategy that I'll discuss shortly, that return is infinite because you didn't put any money in. So every dollar you make is infinity. Does that make sense? Who wants the infinite return? That's what I'm talking about. Acquisitions is the only financial vehicle that allows you to do this, and it's something that anybody can do. I feel that there's a large misconception that you need a ton of capital to do an acquisition, and you don't, and I'm really excited to show you guys why. But this is the best part about it. When you buy a business, your goal is to sell it to someone who is a buyer, who is a different type of buyer than the person you bought it from. We're going to start in the blue box. The blue box is a business that is owner operated. The owner shows up every day, they may have an assistant manager, but they're there all the time, like a liquor store owner. They never leave. Your goal is to take that blue box business and move it into the green box. Because when you move it into the green box, you automatically get between 2 to 3 times more value for it. And the way you move a business from a blue box to a green box is by hiring a manager. Because if the business does not have to be run by the person who owns it, it is 3 times more valuable, which is insane. You automatically, literally, within a 2-week period, I've done this before, you buy a business, you go find a manager through a staffing agency, you don't have to do the work. You appoint them in. 90 days later, your business is worth $1.5 million more than the day you bought it. That is arbitrage. Sheesh! This is where it really gets spicy, guys. It gets crazy. You hire other managers to run other parts of the business. You have marketing, you have sales, you have finance, you have operations, and you have leadership, team HR. If you install managers in all of those departments and have that business scale and grow from where you purchased it to say $10 million in revenue and $2 million in profit, now you're in a completely different realm of possibility. There are about $3 trillion with a T of business funds competing for businesses of that size right now. And they're competing for them because bigger is rare. Only about 3 to 7% of businesses crack $1 million in revenue. So as you buy these businesses and grow them or combine them with other businesses and they become more valuable, now you have a pool of sharks wanting to come after you in the best kind of way. They're going to not pay 5 times. They don't want the other competitors who are also trying to get businesses from this very limited pool to get that deal. So they're going to give you 20 times, 10 times for the business. So that same business that you just grew from 500K to 2 million in revenue or in profit, somebody will give you $20 million for it. So when you hear about these large transactions, that's how that's occurring. And once you figure out how to do this systematically, it's very easy to execute because you're doing very common sense things. So this is all 3 plays on one deal. You make money on the buy when you don't pay market price for it. You make money every year that you own the business because you are the owner. And you make money on the exit by moving businesses from blue boxes to green boxes. And that's how we make $6.9 million out of hopefully nothing, or at least 500K. Now, I want you guys to picture this, and I'm going to tell you a story from one of my very first acquisitions. There was a seller named Dan. He ran a print shop in my hometown of Oakland. And I had been searching for businesses for about 8 months at this time. It was a crapshoot. I did not know what I was looking for, and I finally dialed in what I call my buy box. I knew the type of business I was looking for. So I met Dan. He says, "Hey kid, what's up?" I say, "Dan, I really like what you built here. Are you ready to retire? Do you have a succession plan? What does succession look like for you in the next 24 months? Keynote, I did learn never to ask somebody if they're ready to retire because they're going to say no. Ask them what their succession looks like and they start thinking about it. It's a little different. So I said, okay. He said, yeah, I want $350,000 in cash for the business. Now, I was in such shock at the time that I blurted out, I don't have that kind of money. And Dan looked at me and said the 7 words that I will never forget. Come back to me when you got some dolls to play with. That was the most discouraging moment of my entrepreneurial career at the time. But happenstance, I just happened to have lunch with a mentor already scheduled the following week. So I'm talking to my mentor, he's asking me how I'm doing, what's going on. I'm venting to him like, hey man, I'm tired of building companies. It's taking too long. I want to start buying them because I met this guy named Roland Frazier. He told me to start buying businesses. I found a deal. The guy wants $300,000 in cash. I don't want to blow through my savings and investments, as if this deal fails, I'm screwed. It's going to wipe me out. He looked at me and said, young man, you got a lot to learn. Don't you know buying a business is like buying a house? You don't pay the whole price up front. Don't give that man $350,000. And I said, what? What do you mean? He's like, yeah, no, you just put a little bit down and you actually put the stress on him for the business to perform. So I went back about a week later and I asked Dan if he was actually serious about selling the business. And then he said, yeah. Then he told me we needed to sign what's called a LOI, a letter of intent. That's when I knew the deal was getting serious. After that, I sat down and I talked to him. Instead of focusing on the price, I focused on Dan's reality. What was a day in the life of Dan like? He showed up to work, he pressed shirts, he stitched clothes, he coached people, coached his team, and he went home. And then I finally asked him, why do you want $350,000 in cash for this business? I should have asked what made it worth that in the first place, but that's neither here nor there now. Turns out, Dan's business was not worth $350,000, guys. He wanted $350,000 because he was $350,000 in debt. That's not why we buy businesses. So we ended up structuring a deal because I was able to go from I can't afford this to how can I afford this? And the structure was based on the value of the equipment because I wasn't touching Dan's toxic LLC with $400K in debt. So I went back with an appraiser. The equipment turned out to be worth about $90,000. One problem. Dan had already decided in his mind that no matter what deal we were going to do, he wanted at least $100,000. So I had to decide at that moment, do I kill this deal over 10K? And I almost did. But then I stepped back. Had a moment and I thought about it. If this business is doing anywhere between 8 to 10K a month in revenue, killing it over 10K will be silly. So I agreed to the $10,000. Now, I ended up paying $100,000 for that business, but this is how I structured it, and this is what I want you guys to write down. It's very important. Dan wanted me to, let me not say Dan wanted. I ended up agreeing to $7,500 down for the business. But the way I structured that $7,500 down was we split up the payment over the first 6 months of my ownership. So I was not personally responsible for it. It's called a deferred down payment. The business paid for that payment. So my initial payments were $5,500. The deal ended up being $4,300 a month after that. And I nearly doubled the volume of that business in the first 6 months by doing very simple things like putting it on Google. So you see, Dan, for the first 15 years, had never done any marketing. He had never intentionally reached out to new customers. He had no what I call a growth engine. He had no way of bringing in new business on a consistent, predictable basis. So when that happened, Dan got paid off in about 15 months. I ended up selling that business a couple of years back, but this is how I learned that creativity is more important than capital. This is also how I figured out that you can have infinite returns in business if you know how to structure the deal. I am not special. I just knew how to structure it, and now you do too. I want you guys to think about any small business in your community that you may be interested in, even slightly, and how desperate the seller might be how to get out of the situation, and how you can help them solve that problem by solving basic common sense issues. Now, this is your invitation, folks. This is what I want you to walk away with. Not every deal is built for every buyer. And I learned that the hard way, the very hard way. Most people that go into acquisitions have no idea what they won't buy. Matter of fact, I want to do a quick little survey here. I'll call on 2 people. What business would you not buy into? Raise your hand. Got a restaurant. One more person. Alcohol. Interesting. I've heard that one before. So you guys have already done something that most first-time buyers never do. and that's decide what's not for them. If you don't do that, every single thing you look at looks like a shiny object. So you react emotionally instead of objectively. Developing your buy box is very important if you ever want to buy a business. It's the first thing you should do. So what I'm going to give you guys is something I built to solve that problem. It's called the First Time Business Acquirer Scorecard. And it's really cool. You put in all of the information that pertains to you, and it helps you realize or recognize what type of business is for you, what you should pursue, what you shouldn't pursue, and what you should definitely just walk away from.